What is your outlook on margins in this kind of a rising interest rate environment?
The rising interest rate scenario will have pressures as far as your cost of funds are concerned, but we have been in a position to pass on, even though not fully, but we have been passing it on to the customers in terms of pricing of the products. And there is one more lever that now that the cost of funds, particularly from the bond market side, it is pretty elevated. So we are changing our borrowing mix as well to much more the better finer rates that is available still to CanFin, because we are a AAA rated company. We enjoy the best rates from the banking channel. So if you see the composition is increasing in favor of banks. So we should be in a position to hold on to the margins of 3% plus that we are making. It is almost 3.25% for the first quarter. Our endeavor will be to hold on to the margins whenever going forward the new loans are concerned.
You talked about the competitive pressure. What do you think would be the impact of the competitive pressure on margins and growth now?
Yeah, the growth is primarily in the housing sector going forward, because the entire the guidance of the government and the initiatives of the government is for housing for all. So it will be the housing sector which will be growing much faster compared to the non-housing. But as a company, we have been in a position to hold on to our those ratio of around 10% non-housing and around 90% into housing. But CanFin has a risk-based pricing and a mix of both salaried as well as the non-salaried. So even though growth comes, it will be coming in those proportions, that is almost 70% into salaried space and 30% into non-salaried. Gradually that non-salaried space we have mastered. Even though we continue to remain the darling of the salaried space, the non-salaried gives me a little extra margin, extra spread. So the growth should not be a deterrent when it comes to the margin, because as a management we are interested with a fair balance between the growth and the spreads, growth and the margins.
Right. What about asset quality trends, especially in the salaried book as well as the LAP book, if you could give us an exact breakup?
LAP book, I don't have that much experience, because the LAP book of CanFin is 50% of the non-housing. That is, I told you 90% is into housing, 10% into non-housing. Of that non-housing loan book, 5% is into non-LAP. That is mostly for the rent discounts, the loan for commercial properties, the site loans. The pure LAP, that is the mortgage loans, are around 5% only. And the average ticket size in that space is something like 8 lakhs, 9 lakhs in that range. So we don't underwrite anything which is the unsold inventory where the fixed assets are monetized and the LAP is given. We have got a stipulation of installment income ratio even for those LAP. So primarily the LAP book, 5% of my loan book, that is to individuals where somebody has borrowed money for either the child's marriage or for some medical exigencies or for a child going abroad for higher studies, this sort of cases. So there is it is cash flow backed, not based only on the asset value. So LAP book doesn't have any delinquency wise any differentiation compared to the housing book. Salaried and non-salaried, certainly yes, there is a bit difference as far as the delinquency rates are concerned, but primarily it is individual specific, nothing to do with, you cannot generalize that there is a set trend that the non-housing, the non-salaried space are delinquent or the salaried guys are not delinquent at all. It's not like that, because 90%, more than 90% of my collections are automated, and even in non-salaried space, these are backed by a collection mechanism either through ECS or through NADS.